Hi, my name is Lysandra McAmer, and I'm here for Vital 100 Podcasts. Today, we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to be interviewing the host, Dr. Bob. There are questions I've had for Dr. Bob for the last 15 years that I've known him. And some of these I thought would be really beneficial for all of you who we've just gotten through a holiday season. And one thing that I know that I kind of need help with, Bob, is sugar. What exactly is sugar, and do our bodies need it?
Well, thank you very much, and very nice to be here and talking about a topic that is very critical, especially during the holiday season. And sugar comes in many forms. It certainly is something that we need to some extent, a small extent. If you look on the internet, you can find out the many names of sugar. There's over 50 names of sugar, and many of them are synthetic forms of sugar, which are not very helpful. Some of the better forms of sugar are things like honey and those kind of things. But the problem comes in people having so much sugar in everything. Many, many decades ago, there used to be the whole focus on low fat, and to make foods palatable, food companies used to put sugar in everything so people would like them. Well, now there's so much sugar in things that what happens is it overwhelms our abilities to be able to handle the sugar. And for those of you who don't know, our body, when it is presented with sugar and or something similar to carbohydrates, what happens is we secrete insulin. Insulin takes the sugar and puts it into the cells where it was needed to be able to produce energy and so forth. Well, with too much sugar and taking sugar too often, insulin is secreted all the time. And it, in turn, makes the cells very resistant to sugar because we are exposing ourselves too much. And that's the beginning of diabetes. So too much sugar and too often taking sugar really creates some health problems.
Wow. Does sugar, is there a sugar that is okay to use? I mean, you mentioned honey. A lot of people think honey is really healthy, but is it really?
A little bit. The most healthy type is something called Manuka honey. But honey that isn't adulterated, that isn't processed, that's pure natural sugar is the best, natural honey and any of the natural sugars. But things like the high fructose corn syrup, you can go through the many names, are not healthy at all, and they create some real health challenges in our body.
So you should look at labels.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for those of you who don't know about labels, the first topics or the first names are the things that are the highest concentration. And so if you can get more natural sugars, and for that matter things like sugar in fructose in the fruits is very, very good, very healthy. But again, too much of that sugar is going to create some major issues. The other problem comes in the fact that if we get too much sugar and our bodies do not burn it off, do not consume it, do not use it for energy enough, and it's not metabolized, the body converts it to fat. And so when the body converts it to fat, this is why so many people are becoming obese, have weight problems, because they just have taken in so much sugar and they don't convert it, and it stores it as fat.
So one way you can eat sugar, but you have to exercise a lot. But that's probably not the best the best idea, is it?
Well, again, sugar in moderation. Really, there can be many meals that you don't have to have sugar. But occasionally sugar is all right. The brain needs the sugar to produce energy, and the heart consumes it for energy. Those are the organs that, and the liver as well, those are the organs and the parts of the body that need some sugar. But again, we, as a general rule, get way too much sugar, and the food manufacturers put sugar into the foods at a very high level.
Right. So processed foods and things like that, they'll put in a little sugar so it'll taste better.
Exactly. And if you think about it, that's the idea behind food companies, is they want to sell more products.
Yeah.
So they make it more palatable. They make it more enjoyable by putting lots and lots of sugar in.
And for kids, I mean, they love that. And so they'll eat their dinner or their lunch or their breakfast if it's sweet and tastes really good. Hey, do you know what the first junk food was in the U.S.?
I don't. What is it?
I just read this. It was created at the Chicago World's Fair, and in the 1800s, late 1800s, and it was Cracker Jacks. And that was peanuts, popcorn, and molasses. Molasses has a ton of sugar in it.
I know, it really does.
Yeah.
And so here's actually another thing that's very important. And you can find this on the internet. You can do a little simple research. And that is something called glycemic index. And certain sugars, certain foods have a glycemic index where it raises the amount of sugar in the body to a very high level if it has a high glycemic index. So really what you want is foods that, even though they may contain some sugar or carbohydrates, that have low glycemic index. And it's important to find out that which foods do have a low glycemic index, and that's what you eat mostly.
What's an example of a high glycemic food?
Well, things like rice has a very high glycemic index. Things that are very high in sugar. One of the things that a lot of athletes take is things like Gatorade. Those have very high glycemic index because they're loaded with sugar. And so things that have pure unadulterated sugar really raise the glycemic index and create some really big problems, especially for people who are pre-diabetic or diabetic.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, there are a lot more people these days that are.
Yes.
Right, all ages, I guess. What are sugar cravings? Because sometimes I feel like I need sugar, or I have a little piece of chocolate and then I want more chocolate, and then I want, and it goes on, and I just kind of crave it. Is that something that's out of balance in my body?
Well, this is a very important topic, and we basically have two types of metabolism. Our bodies can metabolize or produce the energy in two ways. One is from the sugar carbohydrates, in which case it's kind of like a fire that you burn, and it burns the kindling in the newspaper very quick, and then the energy goes, and then you have a craving for sugar. So that's a sugar carbohydrate metabolizer. The energy goes up and down and up and down, and your body does not metabolize other things because that's what it's craving. So you burn your sugar quickly, and it says, let me have more sugar, or let me have another meal, or whatever. The other type of metabolizer is a fat metabolizer. Fat metabolizers are much healthier. The body does not default to that unless you train the enzyme systems to become a fat metabolizer. And there are certain ways to do that. We've talked a little bit about that before. And that way you get energy all day long without interruption. I can basically go all day without craving food or craving eating and so forth because I'm a fat metabolizer. I've trained myself to become one. And I have good energy all day long. That's also a good way for people to lose weight, to lower their cholesterol, to get hormone balance, some very important ways when they become fat metabolizers and get out of the sugar carbohydrate metabolism.
And how would one get to be a fat metabolizer?
Okay.
That sounds really good.
Yes. When, and it is a very big topic. But basically, there's something called intermittent fasting, where you go probably 16, 14 hours without eating or just drinking water, and your body has burned up the sugar or carbohydrate in that time, and you group your meals within about a 8-hour block of time. And so your body gets trained to burning the fat. You can do it athletically by exercising on a bit of a fast, say in the morning early, and then your body, the only fuel it has is fat. So you train your enzyme systems to become fat burning, fat metabolizing.
So the whole idea of you've got to eat a big breakfast is not necessarily the best thing to do.
It's not, unless it has maybe some fats in it, that kind of stuff. But the traditional American diet of a bagel and a donut and sugar in your coffee and so forth is not really the way to go. It may give you a quick surge of energy. That's the glycemic burst that you get. But you are not training your body to be a fat metabolizer.
Well, some people have said, oh, I feel really jittery if I don't eat something in the morning. But maybe those people could eat something that's not sugar and is something that's will burn energy, clean energy.
Right. And these people who get jittery, it's because they are sugar carbohydrate burners and they haven't made the transition to become a fat burner. So to make the transition from a sugar carbohydrate burner to a fat burner takes a little bit of time.
I see. Yeah.
It takes a couple of weeks and so forth, and it may be that transition's a little tough as you start to deprive yourself of that sugar carbohydrate or the caffeine when you feel that craving for it.
Oh, okay. Needs to be. Let's see. Once I stop eating sugar or change my diet, what is my body going to do? Is it going to go, yikes, where's that sugar that I was relying on? Or, I mean, you have to, do you need to do this slowly, or do you just stop, like my New Year's resolution is don't eat sugar? Will my body react?
Well, most people who are sugar I burners, which is a majority of the population, it's going to be a little tough to go through that transition.
Okay.
I am an advocate of doing it a little bit more slowly, to slowly cut out the sugar carbohydrates, to compress your meals into a shorter time frame, to do a little bit longer of the fasting each day. Maybe get in the exercise when you're fasting, but it's going to be a little tough in the beginning for most people. And so to do it slowly and to gradually get to the point where you're becoming a fat burner. So it is better to do it slowly. And there's other issues. I mean, people who have exhausted adrenals, that may be a little bit tough. So it's a tough one, and I suggest people do it slowly to get acclimated to it and see how they can accommodate that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think, so New Year's resolution, I want to stop eating sugar, and you've given me some good direction. First, read your labels. Know what you're eating, know what you're putting inside your body, and use the sugars that are healthier.
Yes.
And you discussed those. Is stevia okay? Is that
it generally is very good,
monk fruit, stevia?
Yes.
I mean, you hear a lot of these alternative sweeteners. And become a fat burner.
Yes.
Exercise in the morning. You've always said, you know, that's when you exercise early, and that starts everything going. Metabolism, and then maybe don't eat breakfast or a meal
eat
until
it later on, the breakfast a little
10,
bit later
11,
on.
12, whatever, and you'll be okay.
You'll be okay.
Wow, all right.
I think the point to emphasize is, first of all, identify the foods and where the sugar is, and to start to reduce the sugar. And someone said to me that's very, very important is try to minimize or avoid the foods that have the big labels on it with all the different components, and go toward more the foods like the fruits, vegetables, that kind of thing, that don't have the labels on it with everything. They're more natural. And that could be the meats, it could be the fish and eggs and so forth, is to go the more whole, natural things and get away more and more from the foods that have these big labels on it with all the constituents, whether they're preservatives or sugars or whatever. So that's kind of a good direction to head to.
Yeah, the shorter the label, the probably healthier
Exactly.
it is.
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly.
All right. Wow, Bob, thank you. I feel like I can move forward and be healthier. And you know, you've given me a roadmap, and I think that's what, you know, that's what part of this me interviewing you
Yes.
is about. I'm speaking from a, you know, just a regular person that doesn't know much, and you do, and so I think it's real important to start on this journey, this healthier journey, and allowing your body to optimally, you know, do its work.
Right.
But you gotta clear the way a little bit.
I think just one last comment
Yeah.
here that's very important is people have to determine whether they want to be healthy or not. To be healthy is not the easiest thing in the world. It's not just going into 7-Eleven and just getting anything that's on the shelf. And you really have to think about some exercise. You have to think about when you're eating. You can't just be a slave to your cravings because your body doesn't always give you the right messages. And our foods are not the healthiest things. So determine if you want to be healthy, and if you do, become a student of health and realize it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world. But the benefits from being healthy are immense, including gaining a lot of years at the end of your life that are very healthy years.
Right.
So that's important to understand.
You'll look better, feel better, live longer, and thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I hope our listeners really learned a lot from that.
Thank you. Until next time, as Dr. Bob always says, enjoy the journey. little bit.
I think just one last comment here
Yeah.
that's very important is people have to determine whether they want to be healthy or not. To be healthy is not the easiest thing in the world. It's not just going into 7-Eleven and just getting anything that's on the shelf. And you really have to think about some exercise. You have to think about when you're eating. You can't just be a slave to your cravings because your body doesn't always give you the right messages. And our foods are not the healthiest thing. So determine if you want to be healthy. And if you do, become a student of health and realize it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world. But the benefits from being healthy are immense, including gaining a lot of years at the end of your life that are very healthy years.
Right.
So that's important to understand.
You'll look better, feel better, live longer, and thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I hope our listeners really learned a lot from that.
Thank you. Until next time. As Dr. Bob always says, enjoy the journey.
All right, that's a wrap, folks. Excellent job.
Okay.
I was gonna give you a time cue, but everything was rolling smoothly.
Oh, was
and we
it?
were,
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
see anyway. I looked at you once and I thought,
Did you get some kind of a time frame on that? Maybe a month?
yeah, that actually ended up probably being about 17, 18 minutes.
okay.
But it was all,
Got it.
well, yeah, and it was all good.
If it flows nicely, I think that's the most important thing, too.
Yeah, can I see the report real quick? Yeah, I thought everything went just.
How about the very beginning when I introduced it? Should I do that again? Was that kind of bumpy? Again, was that kind of bumpy? Again, was